Very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Masaki Takahara, Managing Director of JETRO Sydney. Thank you for joining this joint webinar event, New Opportunities in Cybersecurity in Australia with Nichi-Go Global and JETRO's J-Bridge program. Nichi-Go Global is a new platform launched by Australian 5 state governments, Consulate General of Japan, and JETRO to introduce promising, innovative Australian companies to Japanese companies. And J-Bridge is a platform launched by JETRO in last October to promote collaboration between Australian innovative companies and Japanese companies in 6 sectors. This webinar is delivered by simultaneous interpretation in Japanese and English. Please select the language from the pull-down menu from the interpreter button at the bottom of the screen. If you prefer to listen to only the interpreter, please click Mute Original Voice. Now let me introduce Mr. Michael Newman, Senior Trade and Investment Commissioner, North Asia Investment, New South Wales. Michael is an expert in the field of finance and a Japan specialist with a long history of working in Japan. He will be leaving for Japan soon to facilitate Japanese companies' investment into New South Wales. Unfortunately, he cannot be with us today, and he is appearing by pre-recorded video. I'll show you the video.
Thank you, Takahara-san. My name is Mike Newman. I'm the Senior Trade and Investment Commissioner at Investment New South Wales. I cover the North Asian markets, and I'd like to welcome both participants and attendees to the Nichi-Go Global and J-Bridge webinar series, which is an initiative of 5 Australian state governments, JETRO, the Consulate General of Japan to Sydney, supported by the AJBCC and Innovation Dojo. It is designed to highlight the potential of innovative Australian companies to forward-thinking Japanese corporations. The sole aim is to add value and highlight the potential of these companies which are pre-screened for their viability. We first ran a pilot project at the end of last year in the critical mineral space, and due to the overwhelming success, we thought that it was well worth broadening to the other states throughout Australia. And there are another 5 events which will be held during 2022, the first of which is today in cybersecurity. We'll have one on medtech on the 28th of April. We'll have one on agtech on the 30th of June, clean energy on the 1st of September, and one on space, AI and robotics on the 24th of November. And this series is a collaborative effort with JETRO's J-Bridge program to promote business collaboration and alliances between Japanese companies and overseas startups and companies as well. The first event in the series will be delivered by Investment New South Wales to highlight the breadth of opportunities in cybersecurity nationwide, showcasing one high potential company from each participating state. I would also like to welcome my state colleagues, Nicole Fasana from West Australia, Adam Kaneen from the state of Victoria, Takadachi from Trade and Investment Queensland, and Sally Townsend from South Australia. We hope you enjoy the webinar series, and I'll hand back to the MC. Thank you very much. Thank you, Takahara-san.
Yep. Thank you, Michael. I'd like to invite Ms. Kate Farr, Director, Cybersecurity and Skills and Workforce, Investment in New South Wales, to talk about cybersecurity ecosystem in New South Wales and Australia. So Kate-san, I will hand it over to you.
Everyone see my slides?
Kate-san, start the slideshow, please. Click the slideshow.
Okay, you've seen my screen now?
Full screen right now. Okay, perfect.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. This is my first time presenting on Zoom, so apologies. I'd like to start this session with initially giving an acknowledgement to the First Nations people on the land on which we meet. For me, this is the land of the Garigal clans here in New South Wales, the Northern Beaches. I'd like to extend my respects to all Aboriginal elders past and present. And today I am pleased to have been invited to talk a little bit about new opportunities in the cybersecurity sector in Australia. So I'll touch a little bit on the broader Australian context and then drill down into what I know best, which is New South Wales and Sydney. I currently manage the cybersecurity industry team here in Investment New South Wales and work closely with Michael and others. As we're all well aware, the demand for cybersecurity is ever increasing, and the opportunity is set to increase by up to 86% from 2017 to 2026, topping 270 billion, which is just astonishing, really. Again, at the local Australian level, that is still quite significant, although not quite at the 270 billion US figure, but by 2024, it's looking like it should reach 7.6 billion Australian dollars spend on cybersecurity. I guess the graph just on the right, I'll just quickly indicate that the paler blue is the colour of the three-quarter spend coming from cybersecurity users seeking to defend themselves who buy products and services. And 1/4 of this spend covers all internal expenditure, so investments in-house with specialist cybersecurity teams. Revenue in Australia has also grown substantially over the past 4 years, and between 2017 and 2020, sector revenue grew by 800 million from 2.8 billion to 3.6 billion Australian dollars. There are several core drivers. I'm sure many of you are well aware of some of these, and I'm sure they'll be touched upon in lots of the different sessions today. Digitalisation, which exposes business to more threats. There's no denying the impact COVID-19 has had on the pace of this digitisation. Our threat environment is increasing with several high-profile attacks globally, including against New South Wales government agencies and other leading global organisations. And more recently, for instance, there have been reports in the Ukraine of numerous cyber attacks on leading organisations too, which is quite current. Governments and regulators are requiring stronger security for critical infrastructure and systems of national significance, and this is to help future-proof the economies overall. The opportunity for everyone, and Australia is looking for innovative solutions to address these challenges, and the government is also responding accordingly. So this, I'll take you now to a little bit about what the Australian government and New South Wales state government is doing. Australia is responding, and the Australian government is committed to the nation's largest ever investment in cybersecurity, with $1.35 billion committed over the next decade to enhance the cybersecurity capabilities in this nation. This obviously indicates the high level of commitment to enhancing sovereign capability and economic resilience. This investment is further bolstered by other government, different levels of government investment. In New South Wales, that includes the New South Wales cybersecurity strategy there on the right, which is investing in a raft of industry development initiatives that my team will lead, and I will take you through those in a little while. Digitalisation is a high priority for the New South Wales government, and the record digital restart fund demonstrates, I guess, the quantum of some of this investment that's happening in this space. New South Wales has been a leader. Has been a leader in digitisation for the government and is recognised globally in this space, and would like to continue to maintain this. So very much a focus for a lot of our colleagues across other departments at state government level, as well as the federal level, investing heavily with that 1.6 billion record spend and further defence investments as well. What are our strengths in cybersecurity? Well, I guess we know stats like that Australia ranks 5th on the committed cybersecurity country in APAC and 12th globally under the ITU Global Cyber Index. It's also a trusted global partner as a member of the Five Eyes intelligence network. At the Sydney level, many of you would be aware that it's the financial capital, which contains a lot of valuable data and is highly regulated. So we have seen a lot of companies, diverse cybersecurity businesses establish their home here, with over 80 international cyber businesses calling themselves headquartered in New South Wales, and 120 local Australian businesses as well. Talent is obviously a key component for sustaining this industry growth and seizing some of the opportunities that are going to present in the coming years. The talent pipeline is critical to sustain industry growth and for us to continue to be an innovative leader. Here's just a couple of statistics regarding some of the pipeline of talent, particularly at the New South Wales level. We have the largest number of STEM graduates coming out in Australia from our universities. And I guess there's increasing emphasis on cybersecurity courses and studies at some of these institutions. Usefully, the New South Wales government recently entered into a first-of-kind innovation partnership with 10 of our universities to boost innovation and R&D, attract investment and strengthen collaboration. Additionally, there's a huge raft of cybersecurity courses in New South Wales, and the New South Wales Cyber Hub team, which works in my area in Investment New South Wales, is here to assist you to access the talent pipeline in New South Wales and identify gaps and solutions. We have programs to enhance the awareness of students of careers in cyber, which we call the Cyber Ambassadors program. We have programs to get students actively engaged in cyber work experience during their schooling. We have a pilot underway to upskill university students who are being trained to do checks or cyber checks on small businesses. And soon we'll have student placements within cyber companies. So there's some of the workforce development initiatives that we're currently undertaking to help the industry grow. Additionally, my team's also setting up an incubator and residence program, which is purely focused on cybersecurity. So that's underway at the moment. And we're also developing an industry partnership program and expanding on some great foundational work we have with connecting the industry through our Cyber Connect program. So we provide linkages to companies locally within New South Wales, but also more broadly Australia and across our priority sectors. Other interesting avenues for support within New South Wales government include the Jobs Plus program, and due to time I probably won't go into too much detail here, but please let me know if you'd like some further detail following this session, which is $250 million spend to support companies expanding and creating jobs in New South Wales. We also have a talent migration support program and research attraction and acceleration program, as well as the R&D tax incentive. Again, I won't cover this in too much detail, but can share some further information and connect you to the GSC in New South Wales government. But the Tech Central, many of you have probably heard of this centrally located precinct, which is right above Central Station within Sydney. We have confirmed anchor tenants, and we've got commitment to spend to support startups and scale up. And we expect there to be a raft of cyber security companies that can benefit from this offering and really grow their business from Sydney. Finally, just touching on another program that we have, which is the Going Global Cybersecurity to Japan, which is run by our export team, a trade team within Investment New South Wales, and Eden, I'm sure, would connect with you happily if you require some further details and connect you through. Going Global is an Investment New South Wales export program to support New South Wales companies to go global and access new markets. It's a 6-month export program, and 6 companies are already participating in the Cybersecurity to Japan cohort at the moment. And the Going Global Cyber Japan program started with business culture training, as you can see here earlier on, and market insights. And the program is culminating in business engagement, some of which has already been undertaken at the ILS, the Innovation Leaders Summit, and companies are now preparing and hopefully can meet a lot of the businesses that are on this call at Japan IT Week in person, fingers crossed. We've seen our companies pitching to Japan partners and having those all-important discussions about partner needs and how our New South Wales cybersecurity companies can support them. We're very excited to enable and support these continuing discussions. So I hope you found that useful, and do please reach out if you'd like some further information or if you'd like to be connected to the New South Wales Cyber Hub team. We've got a raft of resources, and that's our Cyber Connect network. If you'd like to get on the mailing list as well, just send us an email. Thank you.
Kate-san, thank you very much for your comprehensive presentation. And let me move to housekeeping announcement. We are showcasing 5 Australian cybersecurity companies from 5 states, and each company presents for 10 minutes from now. Your video and a microphone are off through the webinar. Since we have as many as 5 Australian companies to introduce in limited time, we are not going to have a Q&A session. If you need further information of the companies, please directly contact the companies or apply for the business meetings by post-event survey form, which pops up when you leave Zoom at the end of the webinar. In addition, today's presentation slides are to be sent to registered participants after the webinar. Now, I'd like to invite Peter Danu, CEO, Chairman, and co-founder, Secure Code Warrior. Peter-san, I'll hand it over to you.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. Let me just quickly share my screen. Thank you very much for making the time to listen to me. Just a second here. You can see the reins. Good. I hope everyone can see my screen. I'm going to quickly scroll back to the beginning of my presentation, but I'm going to be talking about software security and how can you maximize the security potential of every single developer in your organization. Now, a quick intro about myself. I'm a security geek. I started in cybersecurity in early 2000, and my whole job was to find security holes into computer systems. I've done that for roughly about 15 years. I even remember teaching several classes in Tokyo to Japanese people on how to break into computer systems. So I was really good at the training and helping people to break in. Now, after about 15 years of doing that, I realized that I'm not helping the problem here. The only thing I'm doing is training hackers, and that's not what I wanted to do. I want to help the people that are actually building the code, the actual software developers, to become better. And that's why in 2015, I started a small company with 3 people in New South Wales. And I'm very proud to say that I think now, almost 7 years later, we are about 200 people globally spread with offices in about 7 locations around the world. Now, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? I'm seeing 2 things happening in the world. One is every company is turning into a software company. The second one is we are continuously being breached with security problems. And very often you can link back those security problems to bad software, human mistakes in software. Even if you look at the recent Log4j attack or some of the pipeline attacks we've seen in the US, they can be the root cause or the core is basically insecure configurations or bad coding patterns that are being used. And that's one of the things that we are trying to solve as a company. The way on how we're going to do that is we are building skills-based learning paths for developers. We want to help your teams to ship quality code faster so that whatever products they are building, that they're being built with security from the start. Now, what is the approach? The approach we're taking as Secure Code Warrior, I can compare it very easily with driving safely with a car. Like everybody has learned to drive safely with a car. We have billions of people doing that. Now, we all started learning next to your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters in a parking lot, and it was a safe environment to make mistakes and a safe environment to learn about how to drive with this car. Now, the same thing can happen in software development. Like we can have an environment where software developers, they need to have a safe environment where they can practice and where they can learn about the good and the bad coding patterns. And once you've done that for a while, you're going to get your driver's license, right? Like you're going to do a test it's not going to guarantee you're never going to make any mistakes or bad accidents on the road, but it verifies that you have some basic level of knowledge around safely driving. Now, and I think that's the product that we've kind of have built today. It is the parking lot and it's the driver's license for developers. We want to make sure that every single software developer around the planet has a driver's license where they can basically build code in a secure way, and they can prove that with that driver's license. Now, the reason why organizations are doing this is because the number one thing that is slowing down software security at the moment is security, and we want to change that. We want to make sure that once security has been built into software developers, we can speed up software development so it's not being slowed down by security controls. Now, what we've done is we basically build a platform where it's a parking ground, where it's a practical environment where developers can see live running apps, real applications, real simulations, and where we teach them about the good and the bad coding patterns in development. So we have lots of content. We have about 50 different programming languages that we support, everything from COBOL to Java to C# to Rust to Golang. So it's very specific to the environment that the developers kind of code in. We then have tournaments to make things, hackathons to make it all gamified and fun. We have courses, we have certifications or assessments. We then can provide insights on your thousands of developers on where are the skills gaps, but we also plug into developer tools like Jira and GitHub to help people code better on the fly while they're fixing problems or while they are writing code. Our customers are doing it because they want to protect their trust and their loyalty that they have with their customer base. So in order to make the whole experience fun, you can see on the screenshot, we've kind of used gamification. We've used zone environments where developers can learn about these good and these bad coding patterns. Now, one case study that I wanted to bring forward is one of our earliest customers that we had in the US was Capital One. Capital One is like a bank, but it's also a software company because it's more a technology company than something else. And what they've done at Capital One is we started, I think back in 2018, we started working with their graduates. Like every graduate that started at Capital One, they needed to follow the certification pathway that we've enabled Capital One to build, basically. And over time, this started to kind of grow from not only the graduates, but also to all the front-end engineers, the back-end engineers, the contractors. And we went from 1,000 devs to 3,000 devs to nowadays we have about 9,000 people in Capital One that have gone through this whole certification pathway. And what companies like Capital One have seen is once they give their developers knowledge and training, that these developers actually start caring about the code that they're building and that they write better code. And they've seen a massive reduction in the amount of software vulnerabilities that their developers are writing. And as a result, of course, if that is happening, it is more trust, less breaches. And those are all of the good outcomes that you can get when you kind of bring security and developers together. Now, last slide before I want to head off. Like as I said, we started in 2015 as a small company in New South Wales. Today, if I kind of look to all the customers that we have, there's a majority in banking in the US, but we also work with companies like Amazon, Verizon, and Salesforce. And even in the last few years, we've seen companies like Lego and IKEA. So it's not traditionally the banking or the finance or the telco organizations, but I'm also seeing that companies that are doing retail and hospitality and manufacturing, and even lately a lot of the car manufacturers that are basically all turning into software companies. Hopefully that was a lot of information just in roughly 8 minutes. But thank you very much for listening, and you have my contact details there. If there is any more information that I can provide to you, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Peterson, thank you very much. Now let me introduce Adam Bennett, founder and CEO, Red Piranha. Adam-san, over to you.
Thank you. Konnichiwa. Thanks for having me here today. Let me just share my screen. Yeah, so thanks to everybody for putting this event together. It is a massive opportunity for the 5 companies selected by the respective states. Thanks to the audience coming along to listen to us, 5 companies today as well. My name is Adam Bennett. I'm the CEO and founder of Red Piranha, originally founded out of Perth in Western Australia, but now actually in Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Taiwan, Delhi, London, Toronto, and expanding further into other parts of the world this coming year. We've built a platform and a company called Crystal-i XDR. We actually founded XDR. We're the only 1 or 2 Australian companies that's officially part of Team Defence Australia. And we're the first non-academic company to go through the Defence Science Technology and the CSIRO's D-Start program as well. So we're quite proud of that fact, and we're working with the defence industry now to help secure that supply chain. We were founded in 2015 and launched the product later in 2018. And the platform is what we call a security mesh platform, covering a lot of areas, and I'll talk a bit more about that in the upcoming slides. We work across government, defence, financial sectors, education, health, and now the SME space as well, where organisations realise that they need to take a controls-based approach and actually implement a holistic security program across multiple facets of their business operations, and to address the modern risks. As you can see, we're now in something like 50, 60 countries, and even just last week took an order for Ukraine, which is very topical at the moment, and we'll be shipping to Ukraine to help protect certain organisations in Ukraine over the coming months. We're a true SOAR platform. There's been a lot of talk about what SOAR is. It's security orchestration and automated response, and it is about orchestrating security and addressing the pain points of rolling out security holistically and across the multiple controls that we need to be doing in enterprise environments. We're quite proud about actually being one of the first to pioneer the integrated service model, and we've won plenty of awards, including the RSA's Next Generation XDR award last year. We're CREST certified. We've been finalists in the Defence Cyber Business of the Year multiple times. We're 27,000 ISO certified and a certified Australian made as well. We're leading the industry from down under. Companies like Palo Alto have recently spent $1.5 billion in acquisitions trying to do what we built a specialty platform for some years ago. And that is, while there's a lot of talk around what actual automation of security is, what we've been able to put together is a platform which actually allows multiple controls to be delivered and give that true security orchestration. And we do this at the infrastructure layer. We're able to deploy things like integrated risk management and MDR, managed detection and response capabilities, into the infrastructure. And this greatly reduces cost to organizations. And in this time, at the moment, the three biggest pain points in cybersecurity are a lack of resources and cost. And that is, we need something like 6 times more staff than what we're actually training globally to maintain a base level of cybersecurity across most enterprises. By being able to automate the process and control rollout across enterprise, we start to see the efficiencies and the management burden reduced, allowing all organizations of all sizes to essentially get a security program, a true security program in place. We're able to reduce the risk of the security incidents itself by having protection controls in place. We're able to reduce the time to respond, with the average time to respond in enterprise still at about 18 months for most organizations. Find out they've been hacked essentially 18 months after they've been hacked. What we're able to do is reduce that down to hours and days and deal with an initial indicator of compromise early, which greatly reduces the risk and loss in the event of a breach, where we're able to make sure that breaches are contained in a smaller part of the organisation and not go rampant throughout organisations and cause the hacks to be more damaging. And this automation reduces the cost of securing your business. So we're able to roll out things like vulnerability management and integrated risk management through the platform at the touch of a button. We have integrated threat intelligence, which allows organizations to contextualize and have actionable outcomes. So while the traditional method would be to buy a feed, for example, and try and integrate that into your operational business to get an actionable outcome, ours has already implemented it through the platform and infrastructure. So you have immediate results, and we're able to use that information to protect organizations dynamically, fast, and for a lot less costs. We have programs as well in the advisory through the contextualization of data telemetries that's collected through the platform. We're able to work with risk teams as well to roll out whole risk programs and things like firewall, intrusion detection and protection systems, secure web gateways, and all the other type of controls that are needed these days to protect organizations are able to be rolled out in the single platform. We've got advanced IDPS and NSM, so intrusion detection and protection, where you're getting 5 to 6 times more visibility in your organisation. And also reducing that SIM capability, what we call the capability to respond once we detect a breach. Being all plug and play and having standard data sets throughout the platform allows us to drive those efficiencies through the service delivery to the end customer. And essentially what this does is bring out SOC capabilities, and you can worry about doing things about security outcomes instead of worrying about just trying to keep different technology sets together. So it's more than SIM. We call it modern day SOC, and it reduces that time. Again, we can focus on the security and not the DevOps. We can cover the basics and the basis for all the holistic controls that need to be implemented. We're now exporting, like I said, to over 50 countries. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, we have an APAC channel manager based out of northern New South Wales who has a lot of experience with Japan, or you can get in contact with me directly as well. And I look forward to having any calls with any potential interested parties. Thank you very much.
Adam-san, thank you very much for your presentation. Now, next, let me invite Michael Stevens, Senior Vice President, International Business Asia Senators. Michael-san, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you kindly, and good afternoon to everybody. I'm delighted to present Senators technology to you today in the short time we have available. I look after international business for Senators. I'm covering Asia and based out of Singapore. So during normal times, when airports are freely open, I'm normally 2 or 3 countries a week. We're starting to get back there, so hopefully I can meet some of the folks on the call in person. Senators is a Victorian company listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. We've been in business for 20+ years. Started work developing encryption technology for the US military, and have now moved into the more commercial space, into defense and government, etc. We sell our products through the Thales partner network globally. So in Asia, there are many Thales partners. In Japan, there are Thales partners. All of those partners carry our products, and we support them in deploying them. One of the key elements of Senators is that the certifications that we carry on our hardware encryption devices, FIPS, NATO, common criteria. These are very expensive for security companies to obtain, but we invest in that to show the quality of the product. Many security companies say they are FIPS aware, which all that means is they've read the standard, they've never gone to the extra effort of being certified by the independent bodies. So all of our products carry these international certifications on the hardware side. We've then now evolved with cloud and SD-WAN networks, and we now have software virtualized versions of our hardware encryption, and that enables us to deploy out to the edge of the network on SD-WAN devices, etc. Our clients are blue chip clients across 30+ countries globally. Government, banking in Asia is probably 50% of our clients. Military is a high growth area because our solutions are military grade. Some of them can be ruggedized for specific situations where the military might want them deployed. The emerging areas now are healthcare, particularly a lot of health information, COVID testing, passports being attached to records is very important, and there's a lot of data breaches in this space. So we secure that data as it travels through the networks. Also, utilities and energy are wide open for cyber attacks. We also now secure utilities and energy systems. So many different use cases, and a lot of these are documented on our website at senators.com. So our solutions can be deployed across all networks in a variety of different deployment patterns, point-to-point, mesh-based, etc. So we work with our clients, we look at the architecture, we look at their network, we look at where the data is traveling, and we'll put together a range of encryption solutions to secure their network from cyber attack. What is key to our technology is pretty cut through in the way we've developed this over the 20+ years. A lot of security companies use IPsec for encryption, which is a very old encryption standard, was actually invented prior to the internet. That's how old it is.
Michael-san, can you hear me?
Up 30%.
Ah, yeah, okay, he's back. Yeah, Michael-san, about the 30 seconds you are off on mute, and so just start explaining about this with this slide, okay?
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. So part of our technology, the cut-through technology that we have, is that IPsec is most commonly deployed, and when you deploy that in a network, you lose 30% of the speed. Using our technology, it's basically zero overhead. So very high performance, no latency across the network. In Asia, it's quite unique. Most businesses are running on IP-based networks, layer 3. So we can now deploy our devices where you can configure the device to encrypt data on a layer 2 or encrypt data on a layer 3 and layer 4. So in Asia, there are more IP-based traffic traveling through the networks in one day than there is in North America and Europe combined. So this is a pretty interesting development, and it multiplies the number of use cases we can deploy for our customers. So we have a range of devices. From the left, we have virtual encryption there. Virtual encryption can be deployed coexisting on a server, say running SD-WAN to encrypt that data. It also can be deployed inside a data center. You can't put physical encryption devices inside data centers because the workloads move around. So our software versions of the encryptor move around with the workload. And then we have a range of hardware-based devices, set and forget, which encrypt data on the network from very low speed right up to 100 gig speed networks. So these are deployed in big telecom networks. Salesforce connect their data centers globally with our encryptors. Oracle connect their data centers globally with our encryptors. So again, 100 gig encryption, no overhead, no latency. Very important. So in summary there, from the encryption side, wide range of commercial certifications. We outperform IPsec, MACsec, and firewalls, and they're a set and forget. They need no real maintenance once they're deployed on the network. They are also firmware upgradable. So as new standards come out, or developing quantum computing resistant components, we can just upgrade the firmware remotely in the network. So this gives customers the surety of their purchase, that the technology will be deployed and be usable for many, many years. What's now attracting a lot of attention is our product we've now added to our portfolio called the Vetero. And this is malware ransomware protection. Most businesses now receive files and attachments from multiple sources, not just email, but media from websites, etc. It's very easy for hackers to put malicious payloads inside those attachments. So we use a technology called content disarm and reconstruct. It's zero trust. That means we don't trust any attachment that comes into the network. So Vetero sits right out on the edge in front of the client. Every document that comes in, that we rip off the attachment, that could be any one of 100 business type of files. We then break the document down and reconstruct it, removing the malicious payload. So for example, if HR has received a resume here from Dave Smith, this is quite a common door that the hackers get into enterprises. All resumes are opened. So fair enough, the document comes in, we run it through Vetero, it breaks the document down into small pieces and reassembles it as per the standard of the PDF. And any malware or malicious payload gets removed at that point. All this happens in 0.006 of a second. So this is very important for governments, banks, enterprise who are receiving a lot of attachments coming in from their supply chain. We assume everything has a malicious payload, and we sanitize all that document on the way in. Current tools are based on experience. So if there's a hack in London or a hack in Ukraine, which there are many, the security companies will look at the hack and work out a fix, code the fix, test the fix, roll it out to their clients. Sometimes that can take months. Meanwhile, the hackers have moved on. So this assumes everything has got a malicious payload Everything runs through this product. And once it's been sanitized, it throws through your enterprise as per normal. So just a quick summary of what we do: high-speed encryption, testing and protecting your networks, data moving across open, public and private networks. And we also do malware and ransomware protection. We have other products as well. They're on our website. Please feel free to go through that. My contact details are there, mike.stevens@sanitas.com. Thank you very much for your time and attention today.
Michael-san, thank you very much. Next, please let me invite Jamie Wilson, Executive Chairman and Founder, CryptoLock Technology. Jamie-san, over to you.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen. Okay, CryptoLock. Let me just. Okay, CryptoLock Group acknowledges the traditional owners of the country throughout Australia and their continuing connection to land, sea and community. We do pay our respects to them and their cultures, to the elders past and present and the emerging leaders. Now we know that data is the new oil. Data is the new oil which will power the economies, governments, societies of the 21st century, and is now a valuable commodity, just as oil was in the last century. The diagram here illustrates the importance of data and data flow from business both internally and externally across the systems and the current business environment. So the employees, especially employees working remotely these days, customers, the IoT devices, sharing info across supply chains, the social media, e-commerce platform, and the advent of cloud and hybrid environments. And that is on the horizon. We have the AR, AI, and potentially digital currencies. So, we are moving in a very positive digital age and the shift in the world. The changing business landscape with the advent of the web and the transfer of data has created a challenging threat landscape. And as we know out there, there's massive amounts of numbers. We understand that they're just increasing and it's not reducing. If we have a look at the business even falling victim to ransomware, and this was an estimated from FBI, we looked at 10 seconds in 2021, which actually was 8 seconds. So the slide stressed the increase in the threats and the prevalence of attacks. To stress the significance of cyber attacks, world leaders now meet not to discuss armed races, but also the cyber attacks, as we've seen in the news. The business risks are growing and there'll be winners and losers. As Toll is one of Japan's, owned by Japan Post, back in 2020, unfortunately fell victim to an attack. Now the company's also turned around 6 months later and hit the they hit it in February, sorry, and then in May again they did strike again. And unfortunately that company was down for a long period of time. Then we had JBS as well. So JBS is quite a large organisation, #1 meat distributor around the world, also heavily in Australia and also the US. Unfortunately, they paid a ransomware of 14 million in the form of Bitcoin as well. But once again, that operational and had to stand staff down before they could get the organisation back on its feet. And around the world, we see that medical, hospitals, etc., have been fallen victims as well. And especially over in the UK, where the first an actual attack or related death occurred when a patient turned up to a hospital, and unfortunately the hospital wasn't able to gain access to the medical records, so they moved the individual to another hospital, and unfortunately during that transfer passed away. We understand that there's definitely a massive shift in regards to perimeter and core security. And, if we have a look at the history here, back in the 1980s, most data was on paper files and stored in cabinets. Security was a locked cabinet. As we moved into the 1890s, data moved to our local computers with information stored on local disk, etc. And the security of the disk was locked away, or, the local password. In the 90s and 2010s, we had the advent of the networks and the perimeter and the core security measures. And now, today, we have the advent of the web and the cloud computing that define the perimeter of a network has been eroded. We have an environment that perimeters and core security systems were never really designed to deal with, and their limitations being exposed. Here we do call out the limitations of perimeter and core with cloud environments, and where data needs to be transferred across networks and systems. So a change is definitely required. So we're happy to share all of these slides at the end as well. Now there's going to be winners. And the winners are looking at data security in a data-centric environment to reduce the risk. So what does that mean? Data security solutions like CryptoLock works with their existing security measures. So for business to capitalize on the opportunity where data being the new oil, they need to be able to store and also transfer data in a secured environment. CryptoLock's USP is a 3-key encryption. So our main USP is the 3-key encryption, where the key between CryptoLock and the other providers, it overcomes the limitation of standard encryption, what we've seen in the past, and it also enables many of the features and benefits above. The limitations of standard encryption that CryptoLock overcomes is that once you lose access to your key, unfortunately, you never can regain access. With our 3-key process, it enables users to turn around and regain access. So an example of that is in digital currency, where users have a digital wallet, and unfortunately, once they lose access, they can never regain access. A lot of those digital wallets are now stored with CryptoLock to be able to ensure that should they lose access to their digital wallet, they've actually got the backup to be able to regain access. Also, hackers get hold of your key. They cannot access the data. So we're a truly zero knowledge company. We cannot see any of the data or information that our users turn around and store with us. And each and every file has its own unique encryption. So there's no two files are the same. What we've done is we've tried to make sure that we cover from a consumer to an individual to a small business, enterprise and government. I've just thought I'd share the ease of CryptoLock and being able to sign. So once you go to our website, the user's able to turn around and sign up for an account, and you're able to also select the location of where your servers are. And this is for data sovereignty reasons as well. So naturally, if it's in Australia, it's Australia, Japan, United Kingdom, and also United States. So all stored locally. Once the user has signed up, the platform is very easy to be able to move around. And what we've done also is be able to have a sync app. So once users are signed up, they've got their private key, they're able to sign up to a sync app. And this sync app will will allow you to access files, especially when you're offline. So especially if you're traveling in a plane, etc., you need to gain access to the files. It gives the ability to be able to do it. We've also integrated into Office 365, and users of Office 365 Outlook have the ability to be able to send their information in a secured environment to save them, a malicious or attacker being able to gain access to that data. Only recently, we've integrated into Salesforce as well. And that's the ability to be able to send information directly out of Salesforce to third parties. And here's a short little video.
You can send secure, encrypted reports from Salesforce using the CryptoLock Secure to Client app in 3 simple steps. First, simply search for the report or select a recent report that you wish to send. Add the recipients you wish to receive the report. Choose how long the report will be available by selecting either a time period or specific date and hit start. Your report has now been sent securely using CryptoLock's encryption technology.
So as you can see, it's very simple. And we wanted to make sure that no matter what walks of life, because we understand cybersecurity and we work in the industry all the time, that you didn't have to have the level or the depth. So even down to being hit with a ransomware attack, with CryptoLock, what we have done down the bottom here is we've got a ransomware event. So with NTT, we actually launched last week with the Director of Cybersecurity, where we actually attacked the system and showed the evidence of being able to do a live recovery in the event that your system's been attacked. Well, thank you all for your time.
Jamie-san, thank you very much. So next company will be the last company we're going to introduce today. So please let me invite Dr. Daniel Floriani, founder CyberOps. Daniel-san, over to you.
Hello, I just almost finished share. I think that's working. So hi everyone, CyberOps is we're based in Adelaide. We've been going about 5 years. We work in, I'll push the button. This one here, sorry. We work in 3 different areas. So one is standard cybersecurity, but we kind of specialize in interesting areas within that, which we'll cover on the next slide. We also work in, have a specific space cyber capability that we're helping to secure the nascent or the growing space industry in Australia. And we also have a product where we actually track satellites. So I just put it in there because we do it. We'll just cover that really briefly, but we do take a more of a cyber view of the space security of the space domain. Okay, so just to the normal cyber. So we provide a full range of services from all the way from governance to vulnerability assessments, to policies and procedures, as well as risk assessments, risk analysis and stuff like that. And we do it across defence, space, critical infrastructure, and the manufacturing sector. So we like to see ourselves as like partnering or being trusted advisors with our customers, and we kind of help solve whatever problems they need to solve. So one of the key things that we do that might be of interest is we help companies, especially small ones, become part of the Australian defence supply chain. And that helps them understand what the problems are, and not just looking at the cyber security, but the physical security, the personnel security, and the governance aspects of it. Another example of what we do is that we work with the space companies that are doing launch, let's say, and we help them either review their launch applications because they must be cyber secure, or we help them get ready to meet our Australian Space Agency requirements. We work currently on critical infrastructure projects, helping them understand their requirements, which are changing in Australia. We're becoming more, increased focus on making sure that our critical infrastructure is secure, and there's a lot of work to be done in that area. And we also work in a lot of finance areas as well, and manufacturing. So we try and help secure companies and organizations where possible. Quite often, in fact, the final one kind of project we're doing at the moment is we're out at defence, helping uplift a defence network, and it just happens to be in an RF area. So one of our kind of skills is not just looking at standard cyber and looking across the full gamut of cybersecurity. We also kind of broaden our look and look at the RF aspects of cybersecurity as well. So quite often we get given the difficult problems by either from our customers or from the governments to ask us help particular companies when they're not just straightforward. In the becoming a defence partner area, as I said before, we help companies become part of our Australian Defence Security Program. We're starting discussions to help companies become part of the, get ready to become part of the American supply chain, which is called the Cyber Maturity Model Certification. So that's a growing need with the way Australia's realigning, well, not realigning, strengthening its cooperation. And of course, we're strengthening our cooperation with Japan as well. So we foresee a growing need for Japanese companies who want to work in Australia and supply into defence to start to get their materials ready, or their cyber readiness ready to participate in our supply chain. It's important to note that the DISP program is for Australian companies, and the CMCC is predominantly for American companies, but we work with other overseas companies to help them be ready for their particular requirements. So that's just a high level of what we do. And you can see we're not a product company in this particular area. We provide a full level of services. But the next thing is we were asked by Defence to develop a specific or create a capability in the nation around securing a cyber security capability for the space industry. All right. So even though it's paid for by our Defence Department, it's for the commercial world. So part of that is we developed a space cyber framework, and we also developed an architecture for the space industry to use as guidance. And others today have mentioned zero trust. The architecture is based on zero trust. So that was the first phase of work, and we use that today when we evaluate companies and products and systems when we do our current work. And there's talks about it being used in other defence projects to help assist them understand the cybersecurity landscape. It doesn't just look at a module in a satellite, it looks across the entire ecosystem of launch, rockets, ground stations, launch facilities, users and whatnot. The next phase of that is to build a more sophisticated testing regime, build more training around that. And we have strong relationships around the globe with ESA and with America to collaborate on the cyber and space cyber domains. And in a recent seminar with Japan, we noticed that Japan is also developing a space cyber framework and space cyber architecture. And we're pretty keen to get involved and help collaborate on that front as well. So just finally, Space IQ, it probably fits in the seminar on another day, but since I'm here today, I'll talk about it. We participate in global space domain awareness activities, and Japan is part of the Pacific cell of the space domain collaboration events, let's say, and they have a US cell and a European cell. And in that, a whole group of different sensor types all get together, and we manage, or the event is to build a capability so we can manage the global space domain awareness for when the sun's over the Asia Pacific. So we do passive RF, which is listen, kind of, you can think of it as cyber awareness for whatever's floating around in space. And we use that listening to track satellites and to characterize them to see what they're up to. So we are building a fleet of a network of sensors that is going around Australia. It may go offshore as well. And we're getting funded by our Department of Defence to do that. And behind that, we have a cloud network and sensor network, and we export data into what's called the UDL, which is a global database for space domain awareness. So yeah, so just recapping at a really high level, I just did it quick to catch up on time. We're based out of Lot 14, which is an incubator in Adelaide, South Australia. And an example of one of the, and in there is the Space Agency and a lot of defence companies and a lot of small startups, which we do a lot of small startup cyber as well. But an example of how we work top to bottom, the full stack, let's say, cyber, in there is the Australian Cyber Collaboration Centre. So CyberOps lobbied government for that. That's very high level governance level. We wrote the cabinet papers. We wrote the business plan. We did the design of the network, and we subbed out the, or actually we didn't do the build, someone else did the build, but we oversaw the build of the cyber range. There's a classified cyber range inside that facility. So that's a good example of how CyberOps works, from all the way from working with politicians all the way down to building cyber ranges. Thank you for your time.
Daniel-san, thank you very much. We have had all 5 cybersecurity companies' presentations. I sincerely thank participating 5 companies for informative and attractive presentations. I have learned that there would be a lot of opportunities and possibilities for Japanese companies to partner with Australian innovative cybersecurity companies. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Kiya Masahiko, Consul General of Japan, Sydney, who has contributed to create Nichi-Go Global platform, to make closing remarks. Kiya-san, hand it over to you.
Hello, good evening. Thank you very much for making a presentation from 5 excellent cybersecurity companies across 5 states. It's the best and brightest in Australia, I understand. And thank you also to New South Wales government for coordinating this, and the other 4 state governments for introducing those excellent companies. And thank you also to JETRO for saying this, and AJBCC and the Innovation Dojo for disseminating this information, supporting this initiative. Having been here in Sydney in the last 2 years, I really felt that the Australian-Japan business relations is developing, starting from trade, like coal, iron ore, beef, so many things, wheat, to M&A, plenty of investment from Japan to Australia. Now Japan is on flow base, #1 investor last year to Australia. But I realized that the great potential of Japan-Australia business is lying in this field of innovation and technology. Startups, scale-ups, unicorns, and big companies even. And I'm very much impressed by all those 5 companies which made presentations today. I wanted to work with all the stakeholders to realize this collaboration between Japan and Australia in this field of innovation and technology. And I found it very challenging because, as you noticed, such good companies are dispersed across Australia. And Australia is a huge country with nice cities. And this diverse and dispersed nature of excellent companies in Australia, that was a challenge. I heard that the Japanese companies were interested in this field, but it was so challenging for them to identify good Australian companies which are hidden underneath. So the co-organizers and supporters, we discussed and found out that there are 3 important elements of solution for this Nichi-Go Global J-Bridge webinar. One is sector-based. This cyber security is an important area, and I think other medtech, architects, and clean energy and AI, space robotics are following. But those sector-based discussion matters a lot. And secondly, pre-screened. And I'm very grateful for 5 state governments for selecting the best of all the companies in this particular field of cybersecurity in respective states. In this way, Japanese companies can easily identify good companies in Australia. And lastly, the engagement and involvement and proactive participation of Japanese stakeholders, especially companies. Thanks to JETRO, this webinar is promoted across Japan through the framework of J-Bridge, and thanks to AJBCC, all the Japan-Australia related companies are getting information and informed of this webinar. So if any excellent Australian companies are coming on board, they feel assured that Japanese companies and Australian having good experience in Australia are listening to you. So it is my hope that starting from last year's first Nichi-Go Global J-Bridge webinar on critical minerals, this cyber security is another landmark event. And I think the key is to deliver results. I'm hoping that Japanese, I think today more than 60 participants are here. I think the number is important, but the outcomes are even more important. So I'm hoping that concrete collaborations and investments are taking place from this webinar. And I think I hope that the other succeeding webinar will bring about similar results. And thank you again for listening to me and organizing and taking part in this webinar today. Thank you very much.
Kia-san, thank you very much for your remarks. And before concluding today's webinar, just let me introduce our J-Bridge program really briefly. JBridge is a business platform to facilitate a collaboration or alliances between Japanese companies and innovative Australian companies to develop the business overseas. JETRO supports cross-border open innovation for accelerating digital transformation. This spans across 6 sectors: carbon neutral, mobility, retail, healthcare, agri-tech, and smart cities. Specifically, we will provide JBridge member companies of Japan with information on promising overseas companies, support for business meetings with the companies, and support for strategy formulation and business development through experts. If you are interested in this service, please contact with JETRO. Finally, when you exit Zoom, a post-event survey will pop up. If you would like to have business meetings with any of the 5 companies, please select that option in the survey form, and we will arrange the meetings under JETRO JBridge program. Also, if you have any comments on the webinar, please feel free to write. Nichi-Go Global and JBridge will continue to work together to introduce promising Australian companies to Japanese companies by sector. 4 more events are scheduled in 2022, and we will focus on medtech in April, agri-tech in June, clean energy in September, and space AI robotics in November. Please stay tuned. We look forward to seeing you on our next event. So thank you very much for your participation. I'd like to see you in the next event. Thank you.